the money that I collected is honorable that brought money of Nigeria.
Contribution to Nigerian people.
Me, I want men all of now look at this.
But there comes a time when you want to take steps every day to make this country a better place.
The new Nigeria is out.
Education is telling them it's time to change.
Yes, it's another lovely day and indeed a Friday, and you're right here tuned to Procyon Radio, coming live to you from the Procyon Media Center, Procyon Radio and Television, and of course the program is Ground Zero, reaching you on Procyon Radio and Invicta FM. And we started a series last Tuesday, and today we will continue with what we started, because since on Tuesday when we launched this particular tax education series, it has been very, very interesting. A whole lot of persons have been asking questions, and like we said before we rounded up on Tuesday, we said on Friday we'll be coming back to not just continue from where we stopped, but also to re-emphasize on the need for us to understand the vital importance of tax and the reason why we, even as citizens, should ensure that we pay our taxes. And I am already in the studio here, and my guests are all seated, and we are good to go. Like I did said, that today we'll be having 3 guests, where Yusuf Goje was to join us on Tuesday, but unfortunately he got stuck somewhere, and by the time he was here, the program was already rounding up. And thankfully, he is in the studio with us today. Now, the program basically is coming to you, and it's a presentation of Tax Justice Network hosted by Hope for Communities and the Children Initiative, H4CC. And in the studio here, I have the Tax Justice Network coordinator in the studio, in the person of Simeon Olatunde. Simeon, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, and good evening, Kaduna people.
And I also have with me in the studio already seated Yusuf Goje. Yusuf Goje is a gentleman that is not new to Ground Zero. He is the head Leadership, Governance and Advocacy, CALPED, Coalition of Association in Leadership, Peace, Empowerment and Development. Yusuf Goje, you are welcome to the program.
Good evening, Mr. Ehis. Good evening to our listeners. It's always glad to be here.
All right. Also debuting today on the program, I have Yawan Benjamin Gauje. Did I get it right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Yawan, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Good evening, listeners.
Okay. And on the program today, you can be a part of it. And to be a part of it, you need to go to our various social media handles, and also when we open up the phone lines, you'd also join us. But meanwhile, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn, the social media handle is Procyon RTV. That's Procyon RTV. That is the handle where you can get us. Procyon RTV. Procyon RTV is the handle where you can get us. For those that want to listen to us terrestrial, you can tune into Invicta 98.9 FM. Invicta 98.9 FM. There you can listen to Ground Zero and of course this program. Don't forget that this program is supported by Christian Aid, and let's go straight into talking the details of what we want to do today. Like I said, it's Tax Justice Network, hosted by Hope for Communities and Children Initiative, H4CC. And today, we will be discussing taxation, the role of the citizen in state building. That's exactly what we'll be concentrating on today. If you recall, on Tuesday, we introduced you to the Kaduna State tax justice system, and we delved into other aspects of that types of taxations and all of that, and how, of course, you can pay your taxes. Today, we'll be looking at taxation, the role of the citizen in nation building. I'd like to start from Simeon Olatunde. Olatunde to once again give us a background on all of this for the benefit of those that are just joining us for the first time before we go into the main discussion before we start discussing the topic of the day. Simeon.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Agbon, for this opportunity. And I want to also thank the listener. Just like you mentioned, let me just take us through some of the things we mentioned the last time we met. We talk around the types of taxes we have, from the one given to federal government, the one to the state, and the one to the local government. And I'm sure our listener wouldn't have any problem around that. However, one key thing we mentioned was that the legal part of law is what makes law so significant that we cannot but pay. We did mention that even the debt, if it's owing a tax, even at the point of death, if there are things that we can recover some of this outstanding tax, we will still recover it. For example, we mentioned that if you are working with an employer, and God forbid, a debt can happen to anybody. And so for that last month, the tax, since you are going to be paid for that salary, the tax for that month will be remitted to the government. It's an outstanding, and you have to pay. So we are talking about the necessity of tax because of the legal backing, and it's something that you have to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so very much. And we'll come now to the issue of taxation and the role of the citizen in state building. Will also give us a brief before I come to Yusuf.
Okay, so just briefly, it's a long story if I want to go through all the details, but I'll just give you a kind of brief background around that. Now, state cannot be well developed if and only if we depend on resources outside taxes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this. In 2017, when I was running up my master's degree, my research was based on non-oil revenues. And we compare it vis-a-vis the oil revenues. And by the time I finished the analysis, I found out that depending on oil revenue, which is a natural given, natural resources, which you cannot predict the market, the pricing, and everything, is a disaster. And that was what happened the next 2-3 years after that research work. So the only thing that has been found by research that is sustainable is the tax. The tax collected from the citizen, the contribution of individual towards building our community, our state, our nation, is what you can bank on. As long as we are working, as long as we are productive, as long as we are generating, incomes. So from there we can tax ourselves from little. And tax is not, we're not saying you give all your incomes. It's part of your earnings, part of your profit, part of your income, whatever it is, that is part of it that we're asking you to contribute towards building the community where you are residing. So that's what we're now talking around when we say taxation, the role of citizen in nation building. So it is a responsibility given to every citizen living in one community or the other to contribute your quota towards building where you're dwelling.
All right. Now, I'll come to Yusuf Goje now. Also the role of the citizen, taxation, the role of the citizen. What's your perspective to this? And give us even more insight beyond what Simeon gave us.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ehis, for another opportunity to have very informative discussions that speak to governance and development of Kaduna State. To the topic taxation, the role of citizens in nation building speaks to the question of who is a citizen. And in our own climes, probably due to the failure of our educational system to inculcate civic education or civic awareness amongst the citizens, many have come of age without understanding their roles, responsibilities, and duties, but are always expectant to benefit from their rights to development, right to health, right to education, right to infrastructure, and every other thing that citizens demand from the government, while consciously or unconsciously ignoring those critical roles and responsibilities. So you can't reap what you did not sow. So taxation is one of the obligations of every citizen as a prerequisite for functioning as a member of that state or that society. So without you paying your tax, without you performing other similar obligations, roles, and responsibilities, your citizenship, it has a very big question mark. But that is also hinged on the fact that it depends on whether the socioeconomic environment is there for people to be able to generate income and talk less of paying their tax. Because if you don't earn, you cannot pay tax. So this is a two-way thing where on the one, citizens have their obligations, while on the other side, government need to utilize those tax or revenues as it is to create the enabling environment for citizens to be able to earn and also be able to pay their tax. So basically, citizens, particularly citizens that earn, are expected to pay their tax. And it is when they pay that government would have the needed resources or revenue to channel them into key sectors of development that would end up benefiting the citizen. And it is also because we have a skewed understanding of what governance is. We always feel that governance is about us versus them. That is those who are public servants and we, the citizens, we feel that there is a gap, but we are all government and we depend on each other to function as a system or as a nation state. So it is important that as citizens we recognize that the development we yearn for cannot come out of thin air. There are obligations, there are expectations that is a burden on us for bearing citizenship of a country that mandates us to pay our tax so that government will have the resources to deliver on those things that we want them to deliver. So again, one of the critical things that is important about paying tax is that the moment people pay tax, apart from the fact that development would happen, the civic responsibility of holding government to account would increase.
Okay.
Because if you sweat and make money, and a large chunk of that money is being taken away or given to people in public service to utilize it for your development, and they don't do that, at the end of the day, it is your sweat. So you definitely follow up to know how your sweat is being utilized and what it is used for, and you will not allow your sweat to be used by somebody to be building mansions, buying houses, going for vacation abroad and all of that. But it's because our income is largely dependent on oil revenue. Yeah. So people don't have a sense of ownership of that revenue or that resources. So when these monies are embezzled, people just label these people as thieves and life goes on. But once people feel that almost everything is taxed, like more than half of your income is taken away to pay tax, then it means that people will wake up, every kobo that is being spent will be followed. And I'll just give an instance as I end my point to say that with your private funds, when you give somebody contract, do you go and sleep? Or you follow through to see whether he has delivered that thing that you have given him money for? Is there value for money? Did he get the specification of what you said he should do? Is there quality? Then you look, are you satisfied with the job he has done? The same thing with public funds. That's why it's called public funds. It's not the private funds of the governor, the president, the chairman, or the legislators, or any person in government. It is our collective money. So if we don't put eyes on public funds the way we put eyes on our private funds, then we expose these public funds to be embezzled. So I think that is one importance of citizens understanding that it is a critical role that one, you pay your tax, two, you follow up on government to see that those taxes that have been collected are utilized based on what will benefit the larger society as a whole.
Thank you so very much. Yeah. Now that more citizens are getting to know the importance of tax and the role that they have to play in all of this, it would be nice for us to look back a little bit. I would want to come to Yawan Benjamin Gauje. Looking at the citizens and, of course, with your work with people, what your own perspective now, I'm not talking about the NBS data, your own perspective, what percentage of the citizens or people you've interacted with do you think pay their taxes, and do you think they are well informed or enlightened enough to know the importance of paying their taxes?
Well, from the number of people I've interacted with, you could see them. Even today we had a discussion with somebody, and the first thing he was complaining of was his tax. Why? Because there was a minimum wage increase, which we all know, but because the sector in which he works was not on the national tax chart of the country, he was paying the agreement tax that the then Kaduna State governor had with the universities. And he was complaining that, okay, now that they have increased our minimum wage, but they have placed us on a tax chart, which has also consumed the minimum wage. So we have nowhere. We don't have anything back for us to spend. But you could see that for him, tax is not an obligation, it is a burden.
Okay.
And so if you look at the perspective generally, only people within the formal sectors pay their taxes. Formal sectors, I mean people that have verified income that come through a financial system, maybe bank payments. People that are collecting stipends, allowances for jobs done, you find out that there's nothing about taxes that comes to them, that they pay. In fact, they feel that it is not their responsibility to pay tax because they earn little. But meanwhile, that is not what tax is. Tax predates over 3000 BC. In the Egyptian colonies then, that was when tax started. And you could see that everybody had a statutory obligation to pay tax. And you could see that now, what we are suffering, especially in third world countries, because of our lack of digitalization or database of employers, you find that it is difficult to be able to collect taxes. So when we are looking at citizens' right to citizens' responsibility to pay tax, we also have to look at the inefficiency of government to be able to also collect such taxes. And the only way that we can have these taxes collected, it is going digital, having a database. From my own perspective, I think looking at Nigeria's population, we can say only about 30% of Nigeria's population are taxpayers. And when I mean taxpayers, I don't mean when you say somebody is a taxpayer, it's not somebody that pays tax when he feels like paying. It's somebody that knows that it is his responsibility to pay tax. He pays it as at when due, and he pays it completely. Not decide, okay, let me pay some and let me keep some. When you pay your tax, you pay it completely. That is a taxpayer.
That indeed is a taxpayer. Now, still talking about formal and informal sector now, because many people, like you also notice and observe, that are in the informal sector would always claim that why should they pay? That it is those that are working that should pay. But I must tell you that there are a whole lot of persons in the informal sector that even earn more than those that are doing a regular 9 to 5. And this indeed is a set of persons that we must bring within the tax net. Now, I'll come to Simeon, informal and formal sector. We have citizens in those sectors. Now, what is the level of their compliance? The formal, I would say, yes. Now, we are looking at the informal. What's the level of their compliance, and how do you think we should go about encouraging or bringing them within the tax net?
All right, thank you very much for the question. Level of compliance at the informal sector is actually very, very low. And that's even what called for these programs. That's what called for this awareness creation. We want to let them understand their role, their input in developing our community, our economy, our state. Now, some of them believe that, okay, like God just rightly said now, okay, it's only for those who are earning from government, as though since you are collecting your salary from government, then you pay tax to government. Whereas this same informal sector are using the road, consulted with the money collected from the revenue generated. They are also using our hospital. In fact, they are the majority of people using our public resources, the public goods, the schools, the hospitals, the road, another facility that is being, even the security. They are the most set of people that enjoy those things, even than those people so-called who are paying the tax. Go and check it. Most of these people who are among the 30 he mentioned from the formal sector, most of them have their boreholes in their houses. They send their children to private schools, so except for road that they cannot, construct for themselves. So, on the larger, perspective, the informal sector are the one that even benefits more from public goods. And so, but their contribution in the area of tax payment is very low because they don't have that understanding that it is our responsibility, it is our duty to pay our taxes such that government will have enough resources to develop what we also need to enjoy in return from government.
Okay, I'll come to Goje now. Having established now that there's a need for us to bring more of those in the informal sector within the tax net, what are some of the ways that we should go about it? Because one, in some other parts of the country, Southeast specifically, I know they have this tax brigade. Would I call their tax or levy? That they go about, you see some people with huge biceps, muscles and all of that. And whether you are traveling or passing by, as long as you are within the state, they will grab you, bundle you, toss you into their pickup, take you to wherever. They'll first of all ask you to prove that you are paying taxes. If you cannot prove it, they bundle you. They rough handle you in short. I'm sure that's not the route we want to go. And we strongly discourage any unethical or uncivilized means of collecting taxes from people. Now, apart from that, which I don't want us to talk about, how do you think we can go about, one, encouraging people to do that, and if possible, there should be some level of enforcement at some point, because obviously, like Simeon said at the beginning, taxes are the only sustainable means of government raising revenue to carry out projects. What other creative ways do you think we can go about encouraging people and ensuring that they also come within the tax net?
Thank you very much, Mr. Ehis. Just to recall back on a program I watched on TV where a conversation was being held on open governance, and a caller called from UK, and he gave an instance where he made a request that he wanted to see how his tax for the last month was utilized. And in no time, a mail was sent to him with a breakdown of what amount or what percentage of his tax went to education, went to health, and all of that. So the import of what I am trying to say is that for people to voluntarily comply to paying tax, there has to be a high level of transparency around how their taxes are being utilized by government. When citizens don't trust government, if you use all the force in the world, they will still resist, they will still avoid and evade and every other strategy available for them from paying tax. So first of all, trust has to be established, and transparency is critical to trust, and even legitimacy of government. And I'll give an instance. In a democratic setting, one of the major reasons why citizens would trust their government is if they believe that they voted for that leader. Yeah. And they believe that as a result of voting that leader and giving him their mandate, they can hold that leader accountable. They can ensure that that mandate that they have given him in trust, he will not abuse it because he owes his position to them. So that is one of the first stage when we begin to ensure that there's legitimacy in our electoral process, people begin to trust our leaders. Then secondly, even the oil revenue that we generate, if our leaders would demonstrate to citizens that they will use this money in terms of value for money when it comes to efficiency, effectiveness, and economy, how they utilize oil money, then you give me confidence to remove my own hard-earned money to give you, because I have seen how you have utilized oil revenues that is public funds and nobody is directly paying for it. So you give me the enabling confidence to be able to give you my hard-earned income. So I think there's nothing innovative about citizens paying tax. Once citizens trust their government and they clearly understand what their roles are as citizens, they would pay this revenue. So a lot of reforms are being carried out by the government, both national and particularly in Kaduna State, and we should really commend IRS for some of the great work they are doing in terms of reforms and even opening up the space to interact with citizens and even work hand in hand with partners like the Tax Justice Network. But that said and done, if you go back to the grassroots, do people have the trust to pay tax despite these reforms? Because if on the one hand, IRS is carrying out reforms that is making payment of tax easy, and on the other hand, there are other reforms that are not supporting the growth of businesses that would enable people to generate enough income to want to pay. On the other hand, people are paying using 90% of their earnings to provide social services that ordinarily the government should be the ones providing. So you provide light for yourself, you provide water for yourself. When the roads are bad, you contribute as a community to repair it. Almost all basic amenities are being done by the citizen. So if government is not doing this thing, what justification do you have to tell people to give government money to do the same things that they are already doing it for themselves? So it is very important that yes, reforms are good, but government must understand that tax must not be authority-based. It must be citizen-centered. It must be citizens understanding that no, this thing is not a burden. This thing is an obligation that I should ordinarily do, because I know if I pay my tax, government will use my tax to ensure that I get 24 hours electricity. In fact, even if it's 15 hours, because our case is that bad, that if you can get 15 hours. Because if you don't have electricity, for example, and I run a business, and almost 50% of my income goes to buying energy.
Yes.
You get. Then other expenses that might not, because definitely if energy is not available, cost of production for every other thing would be up. So cost of living generally would be high. So citizens are struggling to meet their daily needs. At the same time, it will be difficult for them to come and also settle their tax obligation. So generally, that is, for me, once we do that, we don't need to bring any innovative ideas. The small that government is having, can we ensure that people are seeing it? And again, one area that we must also commend government, even though these days citizens don't like commending government, but again, where we see government make some steps, we must also recognize that. That is not to say we are totally happy with what is happening. But for example, many disagree with the development levy that has been introduced. Yeah. That if you look at the design, usually again, what is written on paper is different from what is implemented. But if you look at the design, it ensures that when that levy is collected in a particular local government, about 60% of that levy is going to be invested in the local government, in providing infrastructural development within that localities. You understand? And a committee at that level that includes critical stakeholders will be the one to do the needs assessment of what the community needs and is being delivered. So when that is practicalized, because it's not yet being practicalized, when that is practicalized and people begin to see that I'm paying tax and the road in front of my house is being tarred because I've paid tax, tomorrow when you come, in fact, if you don't come, people will be the ones calling you, because they know that if you tar this road, you save them a lot of energy in terms of always going to the mechanic, because your tire, you need to check your wheels and all of those other issues.
And you know, because of that, it still translates. So even those that don't have cars,
yes,
because the commercial would have to spend money fixing their car, they must pass the burden
on the
commuters, the passengers.
Yes. So these are the dynamics that we must put on ground, where government is able to convince and demonstrate that if you pay tax, this is the results you would get. And not just government at all times determining what development should mean for the people.
Yeah.
That's why I said I like the development levy law amendment that they did. Because it is the community that will do the needs assessment, identify what they need, and they see where their money is going to. But even if citizens pay tax, and government carries that tax and go and implement projects that might not directly be of interest
to them,
you get, it becomes a burden. Or government goes to collect heavy loans and direct those loans to areas that might not be directly beneficial to the ordinary citizen. Then you come and meet citizen and you want to tax him to go and pay. So that is the part of government now we are talking about. But the part of citizens, as I say my last point, is that if there's anything we must understand, that nobody from space, from America or from any other country will come and make this country work for us.
Yeah.
It is our obligation to pay this tax. Yeah. But much more important, we must do away with armchair criticism to enter the participation phase of governance to ensure that your tax is being allocated to the right priorities and it is being delivered to the best of specifications and best of quality. Because if we don't do that and we don't pay our tax, government will not be plugging money from the trees to do this development. It must be through our tax. And globally, the value of oil is going down. Just recently, I heard refineries in France and other places are being shut down. And that has led to reduction in the demand for our oil.
Yeah.
So we must understand that countries like UK that even bring development aid assistance to us tax their citizens to do that. Everything in UK is taxed. But the difference with UK and Nigeria is that citizens see where their tax go. They don't spend money on certain basic amenities that you here in Nigeria, you still have to cater for those things and pay. But in terms of reforms, we like what is happening, and we feel that beyond just doing all these reforms, government has to take the next step to convince citizens by the little that they have, that whatever citizens pay as tax, government will utilize it for the general good.
Thank you so very much. You are listening to Ground Zero, and the tax education series coming to you from Tax Justice Network has been hosted by the Hope for Communities and Children Initiative, H4CC. And today we are looking at taxation, the role of the citizen in state building. All right, I'll now come to Yawan Benjamin Gauje. And we've been talking about tax. We've not placed a value to it. Now, when we are talking about taxes, I know that taxes come in different ways. Some are flat rate taxes, some are based on what you earn and all of that. Yeah. Without looking at the figure, do you think from your interaction to that, yes, you talked about someone from the academia that was talking about what they are paying so much. Do you think that averagely our taxes, are they too high or too little?
Well, we know that everything about tax is statutory.
Yeah.
And when something is statutory, it means that it is binding, it is a law. You cannot say that the law, well, I know laws are amended soon,
yeah,
but until it is amended, it is duty bound for you to pay your taxes. So if you look at it from the legal aspect, one cannot say, oh, my taxes are high. Why would I say that? Taxes are not charged on your total income. Taxes are charged on your residual income after deduction of your allowance.
Okay.
So, just like Goje rightly pointed out, when you pay your tax, when you earn income as a businessman, you fuel your generator, you dig your borehole, you pay your security people in your estate to make sure that you are safe. It is the income that is left that is actually taxed. So it means that if government do not provide these social amenities and infrastructures, it means that even the government are shortchanging themselves, because the money they are supposed to get from the citizens is going into paying for these things.
Yeah.
And you know that the citizens, what I can provide for myself is just basically for me and my family. I can't provide light for the next compound. I can only provide light for my house. And if I provide light for my house, it means my residual income is low.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what is left for government to tax is also low. So you find out that the government keeps saying that, okay, maybe when they go to tax, they don't even get anything. The truth is that what happens within the tax space, what we see today is, we see this kind of blanket taxing, especially in the informal sector, because there's no category on your housing allowance, your basic, your transport, so the tax enforcer, let me not say collector, it's quite the tax enforcer just comes and says, okay, he looks at your businesses, not withstanding what you are paying for your expenses, your light bill, so he just looks at the stock, values the stock, and place a tax on it. You understand, based on what he sees. And again, also you notice that even those in the informal sector, they also do not help in such areas because they don't keep a list of their expenses. So even people in the informal sector, they feel, I told somebody that was analyzing his business, I said, you make a lot of calls. Can you tell me how much you make calls in a month? He doesn't know, but he's always buying airtime. He's always buying data because his business revolves around him. Okay. So he keeps spending his money. At the end of the day, when the tax is levied on him, it is not on his residual income. In fact, it digs down into his capital. And then you see business trouble. Yeah. And then you see businesses die. A lot of people who have businesses do not want to engage their service of an accountant to help them bring out their expenses so that they will know that at the end of the day, when the tax enforcer comes, this is the only thing I can declare as my income. Based on that, it's even in percentages. Yeah. You understand? Maybe the first 300,000, the next 300,000, and it goes like that. So at the end of the day, citizens also who are within an environment whereby tax is a law. You understand? Because I know that for a fact, the Nigerian system, we are borrowing the UK tax system. Okay. If you look at how we formed our tax system, it is majorly of the UK tax system. And if you look at that tax system extensively, you will notice that even pets, if you keep a pet in your house, they're supposed to pay tax. You understand? But some of those taxes are not even being enforced. The reason is because, one, even the government are incapable of enforcing such taxes. And that goes back to what? The database. It goes back to, in the developed system, whether you are in the formal or in the informal sector, there is a database. So if government cannot put its house in order to create a database, that is the only way that we can find those people that are not in the tax net. In fact, we are not even talking about whether taxes are high or low. We are even below, even the ones that are within our reach, we are not even getting them as we ought to. So I think government is focusing on improving the tax net, and like what Goje said about developmental levy, you know, that's part of tax for service, where you pay tax and then you now determine, okay, as a community, this is what we want to do. But in essence, all taxes are supposed to be for service. because it's just you're only giving the government the right to redistribute those taxes.
Yeah.
That is what you're actually telling the government. I am paying my tax, but you have the right to redistribute those taxes. So it means that citizens' participation is key. UK aid will not give you their taxpayers' money and go to sleep. You must defend what you spent till the last drop, and they will also go and account in their own country. This is what we released to Nigeria. This was what it was used for education, for security, for health, and what have you. So it means that in all this, government is focusing more, or should focus more, on bringing those that not in the formal sector into the tax net. And how they can do that is by having a solid database.
All right, data is everything. Like you said, I recall that some network service provider would even say data is life.
Yeah.
So for any business or anything that the government is doing, data is vitally important. Now, looking at how we'll be able to develop the adequate data and all of that is something that I believe that maybe in the future we'll look at. But meanwhile, the Kaduna State Tax Codification Law that we have a breakdown of everything that the taxes and all of that. How well has it been received, and what is the level of people's understanding of the content of that particular thing from your experience? Because you are the people that are doing all of this, Simeon.
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. But before I go into that, I quickly want to respond to one of the questions you asked the other time around the innovation that we can bring in to ensure that we're able to harness some of these taxes. Just a little bit away from what Mr. Yusuf mentioned, we also need to bring innovation to an extent, in the sense that when the cost of paying the tax is more than the tax you are paying, it doesn't make a sense to the taxpayer. It becomes a burden. For example, somebody has to pay 300 naira, and he has to travel from Central Market to, let's say, Kadares to go and pay the money, and that's the cost around 700 to 1,000 naira.
Yes,
it's not economical for the person to venture into.
Yeah.
Now, that's where innovation comes in. Now, in a way whereby now Kadares, we appreciate them for this they are doing. Now they have brought in the idea of WhatsApp. There's a WhatsApp number now that you can just save on your phone, that one number, and it tell you follow the process, and right there and there you can pay your money right from your comfort, from the comfort of your room. So that way, innovation has helped the issue. You are not paying the cost. Instead of you saying that you don't want to pay that because of looking at the cost you're going to incur to go to the office and make the payment. Now, innovation has made it easy for you to be able to pay your tax. So, in a way, I want to say that innovation is also very important. Why we're not trying to magnify it, but it's also key in payment of our taxes. Now, back to the codification law.
You need to be fast about it because callers are already calling.
Okay, so codification law, the knowledge around it is still at the lower edge, but we are improving it. Yesterday there was an engagement between ICITN and KDRS. So all of this engagement is to improve on the knowledge of the taxpayer and citizen in Kaduna to understand what is in there and how they must obey it. And we are doing all of this thing again to also sensitize them, to let them know there is a law around tax payments. Thank you.
All right, 0809-799-1989 is the number to dial to be part of the program today. That's 0809-799-1989 is the number to dial. You can also go to our various social media platforms, and we have a unified social media handle, which is Procyon RTV. Procyon is spelled PROCYONRTV. That's the handle, and let's start to see some of the reactions that are coming in. We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Any and all of these handles you can reach us on. That's 0809-4646-206 is the number Not 4646. That 4646 number has been arrested. That's 0809-799-1989. That's 0809-799-1989 is the number to dial to be part of the program this evening. The program is Ground Zero and is coming to you on Procyon Radio and Television and in collaboration with Invicta FM. We have our first caller. Hello. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. You're welcome to the program.
Good evening, Mr. Ehis.
Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
I'm almost Engineer Emmanuel. I greet your guest.
Engineer Emmanuel, you're welcome to Ground Zero.
Yeah, thank you for bringing your guest back because now on Tuesday, my question he answered, I was not satisfied and I want to disagree with him. But now that they have put more light on it, I think it's an expert in the issue of that. But now, how will he feel? You are paying tax and some other people are benefiting from the tax, and you that is paying this tax, you are not benefiting from it. Will you be feel good or you will feel cheated? I'm an advocate. Let's pay tax, and when we pay tax, let our tax work for us. May I be a beneficiary of that tax? Then when you even increase it, I would more energize to pay more, so that because I see I'm a part of it, I'm benefiting from it. But I can't be paying tax, and the governors and whosoever are benefiting from it, living life with it. Is it not due to our taxpayers' money that the former Secretary General stole our 190 billion naira? Now it's 130 billion. Then what happened with the 130 billion? That is, by the way, in other countries, I was supporting to leave this country. I saw what tax does to the people. They benefit and they pay more, and they are eager to pay more. But in our own country, let's start from Kaduna. What am I benefiting from the government of Kaduna? I pay for my water bill. I pay for my light. For almost how many months now, there is no light in my community. Now we are trying to contribute money to pay light for ourselves or get light for ourselves. The security of the state, once they use our taxpayers' money to pay, are we being secure? Our life is in God's hands. But I'm not blaming the security agents, because if all that they are doing is given to them, we'll be getting the dividends of the money being paid to them. So my question to your guest, you have done a very wonderful analysis concerning that. But why you pay that and you're not beneficiary of that tax? For me, it's a cheating, and that is injustice. But if I'm paying tax and I'm benefiting from it, I don't have a problem. I may even want to pay more. Now look at in my own community.
But you have not answered the question.
Of the government of India, and we are paying tax. People think it's a cheating.
So
please, let's agree with pay tax. Now, our vehicle happens, you want to register, you want to renew your paper now. They have increased it to almost 25,000 naira. So what are my benefits on this? I pay,
all right.
The road that is supposed to apply, that I'm paying that tax, I should enjoy it. The road is not being so well.
All right, thank you.
Every month, you have to go to a mechanic.
Engineer Emmanuel, thank you so much. Thank you, Engineer Emmanuel.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right. 0809-799-1989 is the number to dial, or you go to our social media handle at Procyon RTV on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and what have you. All right. You heard what Engineer Emmanuel was talking about. I wanted him to give me the final question that he said he was going to ask. But generally, the question wasn't...
I think he asked
the question
whether it was fair.
Yeah, that's it. He said it's injustice for him to pay tax and not getting the corresponding benefits.
Yes.
So the question is, why should we pay tax?
Yes.
To get it.
So why should we pay tax?
Okay, I think and I'm happy that he mentioned the word injustice. For my own name, tax justice.
Yeah.
We're actually trying to mediate between the masses and the government. And good enough, you mentioned it last week that we are not working for government.
Yeah.
However, we're looking for a common ground where we can settle things amicably. Now, going in the other way around of struggling, fighting, will not solve this problem. Now, my people used to say something. They say when you have things modular. Now, as he's talking, he talked around a lot of things. But we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
This problem cannot be addressed everything at once. We're not going to leave the spot. But when we address it one after the other, bit by bit, we get to a point whereby even the issue of corruption you're talking about can be addressed. And I remember last week we did mention that tax is not reciprocity. You don't say because you have paid tax now, you alone in your community, then because of that your tax, you should come and pad the road in front of your house so that you can say, okay, I can see my tax here. So, and the point here we're trying to make is, we have to do our own. And I remember we did say last week again, you also have to be part of the process. And that was what brought me to the idea of saying CDC, the Community Development Charter.
Yes.
That you have to be part of the process. We're talking about social contracts. Both sides, both government and the citizen have a role to play in making the system to function the way it ought to. Now, if you pay your tax and you just fold your arms, you are not doing anything because you have even helped to worsen the situation. But if you follow your money, you join your community, you find out what is happening, and you ask questions, and you contribute towards the CDC platform that we have provided, then it will be easy for you to say, okay, we have aired our opinion, this is our concern from our own community, and you send it through your legislative individual that you elected. So that is easy. He will be able to echo your voice at the legislative level, and then it becomes a successful process. Then for us again, we also, as we live here, we harmonize all of the concerns that are raising here. When we have reason to engage the government, we also present to their table, since these are the things that people are looking at, and we have to then look at how we can solve things, and everybody is happy. And that's our stand on this.
All right, 0809-799-1989. We'll take one more call before we wrap it up. That's 0809-799-1989. Or, okay, we have a caller. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Ehis.
Yes.
Good evening to your guest over there.
All right, you're welcome.
I was so happy for this explanation given to us this evening. Am I communicating?
Yes, you are.
You see, the explanation is given really is quite understood. I can say that yes, this man is really an expert in that field of thought. But one thing I really want us to know is this. Look, before we all have the full system of tax play or tax pay, it's not only in this way that we know how to speak grammar and read grammatology. But I said so, until we're able to differentiate or bring these things down to our local, let the people know how to understand it in their own local language, put it in their other tongue so now. So that those in the villages and other places to understand what are they saying. Now I go to South Africa. Two people put this and give their people, even at the churches, and they create in the local languages. Like here, the only way that the way Lagos State government are doing. If they can also do this in our own area here, it could be understand that yes, these local people will understand because these are the people that really need to social media, not in the town, not in the city. They are not to go down to the local so that they're able to understand this, what we are talking about. Now, I can only say in my own perspective is that those who pay the real tax are the civil servants.
Okay.
Because this everything of them will be deducted from the top. But yes, like all those markets or whatsoever, other people go to some people also private marketing. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
So not all the relations that go down to the government.
All right.
It goes down to some people, some public pockets. If the government can do the right thing, and then other people will take it rightly, and we're able to see what really is in terms of this social amenity.
All right.
What is the amount of attention that you pay, you do your own borehole, you get your own like solar. Then we ask you to come and pay for the water board and electric.
All right, thank you. You made that point. We have some other people lined up.
Thank you very much. Ibrahim from Kabbalah.
Ibrahim from Kabbalah, thank you very much. Okay. We may not have time to take more because actually we are out of time now. But let's just quickly, in 30 seconds, quickly round up before we delink from Invicta FM. Let me start from Yawan Benjamin Gauje. Quickly in 30 seconds, your parting shot.
Okay, my parting shot is based on the calls that we have received this evening. You see that a lot of people are aggrieved that they are not seeing the visible hands of government within their localities.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to look outside your locality. You cannot say that you don't travel outside your locality. You use the road outside your locality. You might not be able to get the hospital in your locality, but you use the hospital in another locality, which was also used by taxpayers' money.
Yusuf, Goje?
Well, thank you very much. I think one of the biggest things we need to do is to inculcate this in our civic education so that people, like he said, people from the onset grow up understanding the importance of paying tax and their role as citizens in the nation building process. But more importantly, we commend the government for the reforms and innovation, but we have to focus on the enablers. Yeah. Once people don't believe in the legitimacy of their government, once people don't trust that government would utilize their funds, you will continue to have issues around voluntary tax compliance. So government needs to really come up and play that part while we civil society go and help them enlighten people at the grassroots to pay.
Okay, thank you very much. Just in response to what Mr. Ibrahim said, thank you for that observation. We are doing a lot around this. We have done a booklet in Hausa language, and I believe we have also done radio programs, jingles in Hausa languages. So we're also planning, I think we discussed it last time, that we're going to do Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa language on this platform. So we hope that very soon we'll come up with local language discussion around this. Thank you.
All right, and that's about the size of the program today. I want to appreciate everybody that was part of this, most especially the Tax Justice Network, and of course, the Hope for Communities and Children Initiative. Don't forgetting Christian Aid, that I would say sponsored this program, because it goes beyond just support that they are giving to us on this program. Until on Tuesday, I'll be on again for another package of the program. I'll say this to you: make sure that you are law-abiding, and your civic responsibility is one of those things that you need to do. Thank you very much to Mercy Ofuya, Nifemi Onibiyo, Michael Boniface, and of course, Grace Adebayo. And to my guests in the studio, Yawan Benjamin Goje, Yusuf Goje, and Simeon Olatunde. Thank you so very much. I am Ehis Agbon. We'll see you on Tuesday for continuation of our discussion on tax education.
Thank you.
Do have a pleasant day.
Thank you.